In Canberra, Cabinet is meeting tonight, and one of the issues on the agenda is whether the government should fund both the yes and no campaigns for the same-sex marriage plebiscite. It's turned into a brouhaha within the coalition ranks, and Labor certainly isn't offering a lifeline. The opposition leader, Bill Shorten, has all but ruled out supporting a plebiscite, adding to the list of challenges confronting the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, as he reaches the first anniversary of Tony Abbott's axing. Here's political correspondent Sabra Lane.
The Prime Minister has not been capable of providing the economic leadership our nation needs.
It's not about me, Carl. It never has been about me.
We need a different style of leadership.
It's not about me. It's about the best possible government for our country.
As Parliament sits during the first anniversary of the Turnbull coup, the vanquished isn't hiding.
Well, as I say, it's not about me. It's about the best possible government for our country.
While the Prime Minister's been overseas, Tony Abbott's enjoyed a high profile recently, talking about a range of things. This morning in Lycra, it was his next poly pedal and the same-sex marriage plebiscite.
If we're capable of debating who should run the country, we're more than capable of having a similar quality of debate about whether we want to preserve marriage as it's always been or whether we want to change it.
The contentious policy is a legacy of Mr Abbott's leadership, and one that's put maximum pressure on Malcolm Turnbull's, as he personally believes in same-sex marriage and a conscience vote in Parliament.
Marriage legislation amendment.
The opposition and crossbenchers want a parliamentary vote instead, and they introduced two separate private members' bills today.
It looks at the moment that this government's plan to establish a non-binding hateful opinion poll will not have the support of this place.
Putting the question of marriage equality to a national vote risks providing a platform for prejudice and a megaphone for hate speech.
He demeans the people he claims to represent. He demeans their civility. He insults them. He disrespects them. And what we are saying is every Australian will have their say in this plebiscite, and the nation will make a decision.
Labor is still to declare its position on the plebiscite, but its leader gave another reason why he's not in favour.
A no campaign would be an emotional torment for gay teenagers. And if one child commits suicide over the plebiscite, then that is one too many.
The opposition and crossbenchers hope sympathetic government MPs will cross the floor to vote for the bills. One minister says that would constitute the government's first broken promise.
Now, politicians get in enough trouble as it is for the perception that we break promises. This was a clear commitment for the July 2 election, that there would be a vote of the Australian people. So if it doesn't get through Parliament, it reflects again poorly upon how Labor are approaching this Parliament.
Critics demanding Malcolm Turnbull dump the plebiscite and stand up for what he's long believed in ignore the consequences of ditching the policy. The Conservative wing of the coalition would turn on Mr Turnbull, ending his prime ministership. Tonight, Cabinet will discuss the question that should be put to voters and if any money should be set aside to fund the yes and no public campaigns. Here again, the coalition is split. Some MPs, like Warren Entsch, say no money should be made available as voters understand the issue.
That is exactly what was said about the Republic campaign, that people knew what the issues were, and the glib statement was, do we want an Australian head of state? But then when the campaign was undertaken, the consequences of the change were made known through the education campaign, and that is why basically a 60% in favour in the opinion polls turned to a very hefty no vote on referendum day.
Well, that's something that Cabinet tonight and the Backbench Policy Committee and the Party Room will discuss tomorrow, so I think it'll be premature for me to express an opinion.
The Party Room met this morning. MPs were given strict instructions not to leave Parliament while it's in session. It follows the debacle more than a week ago when the government lost 3 votes in the Reps chamber. The coalition was caught out in the other chamber today, with senators forced to filibuster for several hours because there was no business to debate. It was a bad look for a government struggling to explain what it's achieved in 12 months under Malcolm Turnbull.
In the seat of McEwen, we ran Andrew. It will come to me.
Last night, Mr President, I was watching The Last Night of the Proms, which is one of my favourite TV programs. Every year, it's a fantastic music spectacle.
What we have seen this morning in this chamber is a government so divided they are paralysed and unable to govern.
What rot. And let me point out for those opposite something that may have escaped them, and that is that for legislation to be considered by the Senate, it needs to have first passed the Australian House of Representatives.
Are people entitled to think, gosh, is this governing?
Well, what that actually reflects is Labor's approach to this parliament. After the election, both Malcolm Turnbull and Bill Shorten said we want to work together for the betterment of Australia. Now, Malcolm's doing that. He's reaching out to Labor, whether it's in relation to the Omnibus Bill, into the crossbenchers in the Senate. What have Labor done? Stunts.
You were involved in the campaign to replace Tony Abbott a year ago. Given the one-seat majority that the government has now got in the House of Reps and a bigger crossbench in the Senate, has it been worth it?
I think it's worth it in that Malcolm Turnbull has been re-elected as Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister since 2004 to be returned with a majority government.
I said this many times, even whilst John Howard was Prime Minister. I have never been somebody that believes in the cult of personality. The important thing is that we have a Liberal National Party government. Leaders will come and go, but hopefully the Liberal Party and the National Parties will continue in government, and that's the important imperative for me.
John Howard was the last Prime Minister to serve a full term. Malcolm Turnbull is fighting hard to follow suit.
Sabra Lane reporting.